The next type of problem we're going to look at is combined events. You'll remember this as the Pythagorean theorem of statistics. And when you combine events by adding, or you can subtract if you need to compare the two events, random variables. It's when you're combining or you're adding or subtracting two random variables. So you're given the mean and standard deviation of at least two random variables. It could be more. You'll be given mu A, mu B, maybe even mu C, D, E, and it's the population mean of the event A, B, C, however many events there are. And you'll be given sigma A, which is the population standard deviation of event A, B, C, etc. So the mean of A plus B, the formula you're going to need, the mean of A plus B is just mu A plus mu B. So that one's real easy to calculate. For A minus B, you just subtract them. And I want you to notice for standard deviation, when you're adding two standard deviations, you use the Pythagorean theorem, which means it's sigma A squared plus sigma B squared square rooted. Kind of like the Pythagorean theorem in geometry. A squared plus B squared would be C squared. And I want you to notice this plus or minus right here means that when you subtract the two, A and B, you have the exact same formula. You're still adding them inside of that square root. Okay, and one more thing I would add here is the X bar, the comparison. Because they're going to be comparing it to a number, like what are the odds that it's going to be higher or lower than this? That's still going to be part of nearly every problem in this unit. So let's take a look at an example problem here. The mean of a family's water bill in the United States is $72 with a standard deviation of 530. And the mean of a family's water bill in Australia is $65 with a standard deviation of $3.71. So what is the probability that the total amount paid for the water bill in both households is at $45? Okay, so that total amount tells me that I'm adding the two. So what I need to do is I need to find the mean and standard deviation of these added together. So the mean of A plus B is going to be mean A plus mean B. So mean A is going to be 72. We'll call it that's going to be the US. And sigma A is 530. Mean B is going to be 65. And sigma B is going to be 371. And we need X to be at most 145, which means less than 145 to the left of 145 for the X. So the mu A plus B is going to be 72 plus 65. And that is going to be 137 is the mu. And then the sigma A plus B is going to be the square root of 5.30 squared plus 3.71 squared. And we need to calculate that in our Desmos calculator. So let's go to Desmos. That's the square root of 5.30 squared plus 3.71 squared. 3.71 squared. Oops. See, you got to be careful. It's got to stay inside of that square root. Plus 3.71 squared. So make sure everything stayed in the square root. And your answer is 6.46947. I'm going to go 6.4695. 6.4695. So 137 is my mean. 6.4695 is my deviation. I'm looking for the probability that it's less than 145, so to the left of 145. All right, so let's go ahead and go to Stapleit for that. And from Stapleit, you're going to go to normal distribution again. The mean was 137. The standard deviation was 6.4695. So I'll plot it. And I want to know the chances that it's greater than, to the left, to the left of, less than 145. And 145 is bigger than average, so most of them should be less than 145. I should get a decently big number, and I do, 89.19%. So P, that X is less than 145, is 89.19%, or 0.8919. So 0.8919. And I want to show you a different way they could ask the question, and that is, what is the probability the water bill in Australia is higher than a water bill in the United States? Now you're comparing the two instead of adding them together. And when you want to compare two numbers to see which one's bigger, what do? You subtract them. You subtract the two numbers. So that would mean that we're comparing Australia needs to be greater than US, which means Australia minus US would need to be greater than 0, because if Australia is bigger, you take a bigger number, subtract it from a smaller number, you should get bigger than 0. So let's find the mean of Australia minus the US, which would be Australia is 65 and the US is 72. 65 minus 72 is -7. And the standard deviation of Australia minus the US was going to be the exact same as it was up here, 5.30 squared plus 3.6. That does not change, so it's still 6.4695. 6.4695. So on average, a water bill in Australia is $7 less. It's -7. And we want to figure out what is the probability that it is greater than 0. So that should be decently unlikely, right? Because usually it's $7 less. What's the chance it's going to be more? Let's go in and calculate it again. The standard deviation stayed the same, except this is going to be -7 now. And we want to figure out the chance that it's more than 0, to the right of 0, that Australia is actually bigger. And that is 13.96%. So P is 13.96%, or 0.1396. So that is if you need to compare them. You need to subtract them. It needs to be bigger than 0 if you're looking for if one is bigger than the other. All right, that is everything for combined events.